It's good to see a lot of people here. I know people said in one podcast, you said you were surprised there were so many people, but some people listening didn't know how cold it was. So they said, I wonder why he was surprised. And yeah, it's very cold. So just getting out, but it's so sunny, isn't it? Wasn't it good to get out once you got out? And it wasn't 13 below zero, it was only like 3 or 4 below zero. I just hope my mother doesn't know what the temperature is. But she now has it's not Google, it's Alexa that my brother put in her little apartment. So she talks to it, and she's always saying, what's the weather? What's the weather in Illinois, in Crystal Lake? What's the weather in Houston? You know, so she'll probably know what it is and be horrified for me. I wanted to talk about animals today because I'll share an experience I had. This cold weather, you know, I'm sure all of us are thinking about the feral cats and wild animals and birds and just how they fare in this kind of weather when it gets so cold. There are a lot of feral cats in my neighborhood, and one reason is because there are a couple of people who feed them. So they actually have a house, but it's a cat lady's house, so there are lots and lots of cats and kittens. But you know, when the weather is this cold, we can get irritated at those feral cats other times, but I start worrying about them when the weather is this cold. But if you have a nice house cat, you don't worry about it. But if you have a dog, I've been corresponding more with people who own dogs over what are you doing with your dog? Like, is your dog peeing and pooping? Is it going on walks? Is it using paper that you've put in the house? And I was just laughing because there are at least 4 or 5 people who we'll message back and forth about how our dogs are doing. And it's all about how cold it is. So I have a Scotty, so they're really intrepid. So my dogs, sometimes I'm not going to go outside with him. There was one night this week where I just got a headache if I stepped outside. But he still wants to go on his walks. So we're taking shorter walks because of me. But he gets out and he dives in the snow. I didn't know he'd been watching me, but I'd sprinkled I have a bird feeder, but I'd sprinkled some bread that had a lot of seeds in it, pieces out over the snow, thinking maybe some of the critters would need that. And he must have been watching, because the first walk we took down our little path that I dug in the snow, he dove into the pile of snow and just got buried. His whole face was covered in snow because he knew those little pieces of bread were out there. And that was yesterday morning and the day before that. So he's rather intrepid, but he'll still reach that point where one of those paws will come up, and it's like, you either carry them or you get them back in fast. And he's kind of chunky, so I don't like to carry him. But other people have dog problems, and so we're all sympathizing. But if you have cats inside, you're fine. But then you worry about feral cats more, I think. But my experience that I wanted to share with you wasn't just about dogs pooping and peeing and walking in very cold weather. Yesterday, I was invited to Main Stay, the horse therapeutic farm that's in. It's right around. It's Richmond address, but it's near Ringwood. And I'd had some workshop experience with them where I led meditations, and we were with what they call the littles, or we call the little herd of goats and ponies and sheep and a donkey, and they have a little herd of animals that have been rescued, and they have the job of being therapy animals for people. And then the horses are the rescue animals because they've been rescued and their lives have been they're in this wonderful heavenly place and well taken care of, but they were all rescued. So they help children and adults realize you can survive incredible things. They all have incredible stories. So they're therapists because their lives are examples of survival and kind of victory and peace at some point. So they work a lot with children and at-risk teens too, who can see how incredible these animals have done with a rough life. And the horses they have, the therapy horses, have all been. They have one or two that were rescued, but the other horses have been trained and are very, very carefully chosen. The process is probably more difficult than being a seeing eye dog, but they pick very special horses who have the right stuff to be a therapy animal. And they usually have to buy those horses and find them because they have to be trained for a long time. So those horses are helping people with physical injuries, developmental disabilities. They work with seniors and Alzheimer's patients, and they do everything from having people ride them. And they have incredible equipment there, and it's a beautiful newer building that they've have a heated barn, and the arena is indoors and heated to them is like not very hot. You know, it's great for the animals who live there, but it's still pretty cold. But it's indoors, and they have indoor spaces for all the little animals too when it's this cold. But the horses, they really work hard. The horses are, but the people at Main Stay are deeply devoted to the animals and their welfare as well as their clients. So they don't overwork their horses because they know that those horses are working with all of their being because of the way horses can be. And I didn't know much at all about horses. I grew up in Texas, so people always think that I know about horses. And I don't. Just, I'm not afraid of them, but I don't know that much about horses. And Marty Gorman, who's a big volunteer there and is a Sangha member here, over the years has told me so much about it that when I was introduced to the people at Main Stay, they said, maybe you can do meditations for things we have. So that's what we've been doing. So they treat the animals there with so much respect because they know what they're doing for people. And you can see it anytime you go there. Any of you are welcome to go there and visit and be rehabbed by a horse or a goat or a sheep but you're welcome to go and visit it anytime, and anytime the staff is there. And yesterday they had their annual board of directors meeting, and the staff, they have a huge volunteer staff now, about 130 people, but they have some people who are part-time paid staff, and they have their office staff and the management and program and grant writers and program directors. And so there were about 30 people, and they asked me to come and talk about the workshops that I've gotten to do two with. They're workshops that are on grief and loss, using the little herd to help adult people who have experienced grief or loss and are still dealing with it, trying to work with it. And those workshops have been incredible. And it turns out that pretty much everybody, when they asked me if I could get a group together for the first workshop, they still had some grant money. And everyone I asked and told about the workshop wanted to go. And they said, I had a loss, several years ago. Can I qualify? And I realized all of us have losses in our lives that we're working on. It doesn't have to be something that happened within the last year. a lot of us are still dealing with loss from many years ago. And the losses can be, the loss of a job or a loss of status or a divorce or someone dying or something drastically changing, illness, an illness that kind of changes our whole life. And it might be something that happened long ago, so you might automatically think, oh, you don't qualify, you should have dealt with that. And that's not how grief and loss work. It's never a linear thing. And so everybody who I talked to about the workshop wanted to qualify, and I knew a lot of people I knew their stories of most of the people I talked to. And there was so much more that I didn't know. So the workshops were wonderful. We've had 2 of them, and we're going to have a 3rd. But that led to them asking me to come and talk about that workshop and how it has affected the people who attended, and also to lead a meditation. And what they wanted me to do was lead a meditation in the stables with the horses with this group of about 30 people. And that's what we've been doing with the other workshop groups. And it's been just wonderful. So, yesterday, first thing on everybody gets into this nice warm room with coffee and refreshments, and everybody's greeting their friends, and it's like 3 below zero. And the first thing on the program is me, and they've all taken their coats off, right? So they've taken their scarves and their hats and their gloves and their coats. We've taken all that off. And so I'm thinking I'll be kind of deep in the program, because people are just warming up. I'm first on the program, and the first thing is, okay, Vimala's going to take us all outside to go meditate with the horses. And I thought, oh man, nobody's going to want to do that. And if it was here at the temple and we said we're all going to go outside and meditate, half of us, including me probably, would be in the shoe room. We'd never get any further than that, We'd just be slowly putting our shoes on. It'd be done. But this is a perfect group because they all are used to being out in those barns and being out with the horses, and they're exactly the kind of people that every person just bundles up and no complaints. They're just out there in the stables. And it was so cold. But the horses are all in their stables. If it was not as cold, they might even be outside. But they're all in their big stalls, and they have huge stalls. It's a wonderful, Diane, they just have, it's just the best setup. I want to be a horse in another, because all their stalls have their names on it, and if you want anybody to tell you their stories or what they're particularly skilled at, these people all know. And the horses are magical. I've seen it. I've seen it with these groups and with myself. So everybody goes out. They have to get a folding chair, which are made out of metal, so they're freezing cold. So you have to get a chair and go and set it out. And there are a lot of people, I'm guessing 30. So they're all sitting as close as they can get. There are 2 rows of people. They're sitting as close as they can get to the front of the stalls. So their knees are almost bumping up, facing the stall. And the stalls are so big it only goes back, for all those people, it's about 2.5 stalls back. So, and they all sit down and they're all chatting because their group's just happy to be with each other, and everybody's talking. But when I said, okay, I want everybody to be quiet and close their eyes, they did it. They all dropped silent instantly. And I wanted them to close their eyes because the horses were already paying a lot of attention. And I wanted them at first to not have the people staring at them, and I wanted them not to be watching the horses. And the horses were just there, they had good stuff straw and things to eat in their stalls. So everyone got very quiet, and as soon as they closed their eyes and stopped talking, and they did that exactly when I told them to, the horses started moving closer to watch the people. And so I did a guided meditation, just a loving kindness practice. But what I do when I'm there is I use we're working with the whole, they have 80 acres or something, but I'm really thinking about all the creatures, all the animals, the horses, and all the animals who work there, and the people, but then all the wild animals and all the, the like the little spirits that might be on that property, and just everything on that property, and all the creatures, and then just spread it out from there. And so I did that. That was the kind of meditation I did. And most of the people have probably not meditated, but I know some have. But as I talked, and it was about, we were there, we did the meditation for about 15 minutes. And the horses, what I wanted them to do, the whole meditation, was for them, we did short loving kindness, and then I said, just be present, and just use all your senses, except I had them keep their eyes closed. But at one point I said, now just open your eyes just to see, the horse that you're in front of. And they all kind of gasped, because all the horses had just gotten as close as they could to the people. Just like, let's get close to this. They're all being quiet. And they all kept moving closer, or they'd go sideways so their whole body could be at the front of the stall. And then the horses were watching the people. Then I said, close your eyes again. And so it's just that what the horses are doing is the most amazing thing of all. So you're listening to the sound. I wanted you to listen and hear like the cars, and hear you can hear things going on and off here. And you can hear a lot of people. I think a lot of people are dealing with maybe coughs and things, or the dry air, because lots of coughs, and everybody's so quiet, nobody was moving at all, but you can hear people, and you could feel the colder, you can feel at least your floor might be heated, ours isn't up here, but you can feel that the temperature's colder and it's drier. But you're sitting in that bar, the stalls, and you're really feeling the temperature. And people were fine with that, because they're more used to it. But you can feel, though, and I could see the horses breathing, and their breath comes out as big white clouds. And so when a horse breathes, that's that goes out. And you can just imagine, if you're not a horse person already, it's just watching them breathe out and see all that cloud, that white cloud come out. That's pretty cool. But the horses were just totally changed when we were doing the meditation, because they were responding to those people and just being there quietly. And they just kept getting closer. And I think what the horses were giving us something. And they were feeling the connection with the people, and they were chewing their food, and with those big teeth, you can hear them just grinding the oats, and you can hear them chewing. It's not quiet, As soon as you're quiet, you hear you can just imagine their teeth, they're not meat eaters, so they're doing all that great crunching with their teeth, kind of grinding. And then they pee a lot. Horses pee a lot. It's amazing. So this is morning time, and they've probably eaten, so they're peeing, they're pooping, they fart. Horses do fart a lot. And these are people who work with the horses, so nobody's even giggling when with our other groups, there's some kind of giggles, because it's like, my gosh, there must be elephants in those cages. But the horses are just, this is just their morning of kind of they're in their stalls, they're visiting with each other, and suddenly these people are there. And so it ended up that getting bundled up and going out to the stalls, even the people who work with horses, they were amazed. When they all opened their eyes, they were still watching the horses, and they couldn't believe, and they know the horses' temperaments and personalities. And one woman said, well, look at her eyes. Her eyes are her eyes are open. Her eyes are wide open and really clear. That's not her usual sort of morning look. And they could see a change just in the horses, in their faces. When we were there the last time, there was a horse in one of the stalls, and the group was smaller, but we were, right there doing the same thing. And one of the horses actually, they were eating some really good stuff they'd put out for them in a bag. They were pulling it out of a bag. They finished eating that, and then there's the farting and the pooping and the peeing. And then one horse, with all of us there, lay down in their stall. And the instructors they still were talking about it yesterday. They said horses are, they're not animals who'll lay down and relax in front of strangers, because they're hunted by they're always on the lookout for dangerous situations. So with these strangers staring at them, they couldn't believe that the horse was so relaxed that the horse lay down and just lay down, still paying attention to us, and just relaxed. She said that's unbelievable to see a horse do that. But so the horses and the people are interacting, and those horses are feeling that these people doing this thing it was proof to me that our minds are settling down, our bodies are getting calmer, we're feeling more peaceful, because the animals pick it up. And the animals these are amazing horses. Horses are amazing, but these are horses that are trained to read people and know the people that they're working with. So they're seeing the peace in people just because they're quiet, and just because they're still, and they're with their breath. So it was such a wonderful experience. I recommend it if you ever have a chance to. If you have a pet, you may have seen this if you meditate, and your dog or your cat will come and sit on you and want to be there, right there with you. But with these big, huge animals, there's something so amazing, so remarkable about that. There is that energy. Then the horses have to have it with each other, because as a herd, they're always protecting each other. If they're out in the wild, they'd always be on the lookout for predators. But they have it with their human people too, and it's incredible. So I decided if they ever need chaplains at this therapeutic horse farm, I'm already volunteering doing the meditations, but if they ever need a chaplain, I'm signing up. I'll leave Blue Lotus in a heartbeat if they want. If they want to start a temple there, it'd be right in the horse stalls. So get with find some animal creatures. And I was just as dazzled and amazed with the goats and the mule and the little ponies and the other animals they have. And when we went to work with them with our groups, they told us, now all of you it's in a different barn, their older barn. They tell the people with our groups, now all of you just go and stand by the walls. Don't say anything. Don't move around. And the animals come in when they want to. They let them come in, or if they don't want to come in, and they'll pick you. So let the animals get used to you, and you just let them decide if they want to come around you, and don't go after them. So that's a different kind of instruction than we usually get with animals. And so they let all the goats and donkey, it's a donkey, a little donkey, and the little horses, and all those animals come in, and then they see that the people are being quiet. They notice that we're there, and they're curious, so they kind of come and they start going close to some people and, walking around, and they become comfortable with the humans. And then it's okay to mix and mingle with the animals, but they're very much acting as therapists, just walking around, letting people have that intimate contact with them. And it's very healing. It's very, it surprised me at really how healing it was. So I wanted to share that with you, because with this super cold weather, then, we all have compassion for the humans and the animals who are suffering. And I hope we all can find a way, if you have compassion for those creatures and the humans, that you can find something that you can do to help. It might be more food at the food pantry, or going and volunteering somewhere where you can help. Or there are good articles online about things you can do to help feral cats, and ways and I'm not a cat person, and even I want to do things for feral cats. I just think of animals who are not, if they've always lived out of doors, they have evolved to work with that. But the animals that are feral because they've lost homes, or we haven't have had the cats neutered or spayed, or the animal, there are just so many feral cats that have just been left behind. They aren't prepared for these heavy winters, so there are a lot of things we can do to help them. But also just think it's a wonderful thing. So grab an animal, find an animal that you can get to know, and it doesn't have to be a horse or a farm animal. But I think that contact with us is another way for us to open up and feel what that contact can do if we're dealing with seasonal affective disorder, or if you need a hug. A sheep is maybe the best thing in the world to hug, especially in the winter. But there are so many beautiful ways to volunteer, but also have that contact. And it proves that meditation works. You can just see it when the animal is around it. So thank you for letting me share that.